Our favorite, globally favorite event of the year, Mercury retrograde, is upon us. It begins on January 14th. Venus is still retrograde until January 29th, so we're in for a couple of weeks of slow shuffling things around, talking deeply, intense interactions, and hopefully cleaning. Healing, cleansing, cleaning our space, right? Cleansing our space. I'm here to break this retrograde for all 12 signs and talk more about the significance of it in general. My name is Anastasia. For those of you who don't know, I'm a traditional Western astrologer. I do natal and predictive readings. If you're interested, you can check out the links down below. And I wanted to let you know that I am currently offering a discount on my year ahead horoscopes. So if you'd like to get one, you can do so until January 15th. You can DM me or on Instagram for more information. So Mercury's shadow period started on December 28th. So we've already been in this pre-retrograde period, and shadow period means that Mercury has entered the degree that it's going to go back towards during the retrograde. Have you felt any glitches? Have you received any messages from people you haven't spoken to in a while? I personally know someone who his Instagram got hacked. I've had like 4 people impersonating me, or 4 fake pages impersonating me and reaching out to my followers. I like randomly saw How I Met Your Mother on Hulu amongst the English titles. How I Met Your Mother was in Spanish. So definitely just like random things popping up for me. Let me know if you felt that, if you've experienced anything like that. So this retrograde begins on January 14th and it lasts until February 3rd. Yeah, February 3rd. Mercury retrogrades generally last around 3 weeks, so we're in for that. And Mercury is going to station at 10 degrees Aquarius, and then it's going to enter Capricorn, so it's a double sign retrograde, and it's going to end its retrograde at 24 degrees Capricorn. If you have any planets in those specific degrees, it will affect you even more. It will depend on the nature of the planet. For example, if Mercury is conjoining your moon, you may need to address some of your emotional needs. You may need to communicate about your feelings a lot more. And you will also need to address the topic of the house that holds Cancer in your chart. So if you are, let's say, Gemini rising, Cancer will be your second house. So you will need to look at your finances and your values as well. So check that out. Because it's a double sign retrograde, we start with Aquarius and then we go into Capricorn. There is a bit of a feeling of like you may have felt like you're gonna get going, you're gonna get started on things, right? It starts in Aquarius, and Aquarius energy is innovative and futuristic and scientific, very like intellectual and forward. It like wants to move forward, wants to change the world for the better. So maybe somewhere in your chart where Aquarius is, you've started to feel the momentum. And then it's like we come to a halt and we need to go back and we return to Capricorn. And Capricorn is structures and rules. It's a lot more conservative. So both are ruled by Saturn, but Capricorn is a yin Saturn, while Aquarius is a yang version of Saturn. So this return just to me kind of means a need to step back and pull back from the activity that we are engaging in and maybe return to the way things were done. Not necessarily to stick with them, but to pay attention to them, right? Like history is studied for a reason, structures exist for a reason, rules exist for a reason. I think the theme of this retrograde might be, how can you move forward by learning the lessons of the past, right? Like maybe it's as simple as going and talking to your elder, going and talking to someone in power, someone who has experience, so you will learn about their journey and absorb some of that into your personal life. So do the usual Mercury retrograde, you know, review, revisit, rewrite, avoid starting new ventures, especially when it comes to your mind. Like, you know, like don't necessarily publish your website at the time you can revision things, right? Like it's a great time if you're working on your website to take a look at it, to go back and add some kind of finishing touches, but it's not the best to like announce your business venture or put something, some like out of, you know, some intellectual work out there. If you're writing a book, for example, this is a lovely time to like work on the revisions, do some edits, cut some fat out of it, or add some in, right? Of course, Mercury is connected, Mercury retrograde is connected to tech issues, so pay attention to that. Just be careful, you know, don't freak out if your computer breaks down. Of course, if it's been breaking down for a while, maybe it's the time to get a new one. Mercury deals with merchants, it's mercantile, right? So selling, buying, be careful with those transactions. Sometimes things that you invest money into, maybe you buy it and it seemed better than it actually is, so you have to then go back and redo some of that. Communication issues are likely, especially if you are a Scorpio rising and it's happening in your third house, for example. But even if you are a Sag rising, well, because it's going to affect two houses, right? Like for Scorpio, it's starts in the fourth, goes in the third. For Sag rising, starts in the third, goes in the second. So communication, check your messages before you're sending them out. You don't want to be in a situation where you're sending the message about a person to the person, or, you know, in order to avoid that, just talk kindly about people. Can never go wrong with that. Build extra time into your schedule. Transportation trips may get delayed. Paperwork, pay extra attention while signing contracts, and lean into self-care, right? Venus is still retrograde for half or even more than half of this Mercury retrograde. So feeling uncertain, feeling insecure about Venusian topics like love, romance, desires, values is quite common. So it's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up about not having all the answers. Some of the major dates to note: January 23rd is Mercury Cazimi. The Mercury conjoins the Sun at 3 degrees Aquarius. Cazimi is very much loved in astrology. It's the moment of perfect conjunction where the Sun and Mercury come together and kiss, 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 kiss. I mean, depending on how you look at it. But it's the perfect conjunction. It's like, you know, the planets usually don't like to be too close to the Sun because the Sun burns them up. The Sun is so overpowering. But when it's the Cazimi, it's like they finally come into understanding. So we can experience a moment of enlightenment, increased understanding, depth in our thinking. It's a great time to set intentions, to manifest, to journal, anything like that. On January 26th, Mercury goes into Capricorn, so our thinking becomes more conservative and there's more answers to be found in tradition and structure. And then on January 28th, Mercury is going to conjoin Pluto in Capricorn. And we've had that conjunction already happen on December 30th. So take a look at the end of the year, the first couple of days of the year. Have you dealt with any emotional upheaval, with any secrets coming up, with any darkness that you had to face, like obsession, power struggles, anything like that? There might be a need to revisit that. And Mercury is going to conjoin Pluto once more on February 11th. So December 30th, January 28th, and February 11th. And basically that entire period from January 28th until February 11th, Mercury is staying really close to Pluto. So it's a lovely time to face your darkness, right? Seems to be the topic of the end of the year and the beginning of the year, with Venus retrograde, Venus conjunct Pluto, now Mercury conjunct Pluto. So whatever relational, emotional things came up for you at the end of the year, you're now getting a chance to look at them differently, to allow them to be, to sit with them, and to transform them into something bigger and better and greater. So don't be afraid of your own darkness. Invite it and shine some light on it, you know. Give it a hug. You never know. It might turn into a beautiful bird that just floats away, flies away. So let's talk about it for each sign and see what it might mean for you. For Aries risings, the retrograde starts at the 11th house and then Mercury goes back to your 10th house. So retrograde in the 11th, especially, you know, January 14th until 26th, could be very much issues with your friendships or issues with your networks. Perhaps there's miscommunications with friends because perhaps, you know, you're dealing with certain challenges. Mercury is activating Saturn-Uranus square, something I didn't mention. So the topics that you've dealt with last year, the conflicts between your values and values of your friends can still show up. And perhaps this Mercury retrograde is an invitation for you to try to get on the same page or try to understand your friends and try to understand what they're going through, because you're not always, you know, we come at things from a very subjective perspective. Sometimes we may not fully be aware of what other people are going through. 11th house deals with your hopes and dreams and your aspirations for the future, as well as the groups of people and like people that get you there, right? And Mercury moves from your 11th into the 10th, where Venus is still retrograde. So there's still a lot of topics of your career and your professional growth. And what are the people that are supporting you, right? Like, are your friends supportive enough? Are you trying to accomplish something in the professional realm and you need to make some new connections, right? Or is the accomplishment of things in the professional realm connected to reaching out for help? Maybe you are trying to become a photographer and you already know some people who have access to a large network, and you know, it's just about asking them to put in the good word for you. So try to look at your connections and your friend groups as a source of support for your hopes and dreams, as well as, you never know, maybe your existing career or your existing colleagues have the answers and have a way to support you somehow. And if you're having any friendship issues, just talk to people. For Taurus rising, Mercury starts its retrograde in the 10th house, goes into your 9th house. It is activating Saturn-Uranus square, with Saturn being in your 10th, asking you to work hard, asking you to achieve things on a professional level, and Uranus being in your 1st, kind of that desire to break free and do something for yourself and just maybe like relax, you know, and stop working really hard. So the topics that existed last year may be brought back by this Mercury retrograde. So we start in your 10th house, right? Mercury in the 10th can bring delays to your professional aspirations. Maybe something you've been working on just kind of gets stalled. Maybe you're getting in miscommunications with your boss. Maybe you've been promised a raise, but you're not getting it, or they just keep giving you these vague answers. And the knee-jerk reaction here might just be like, you know, F this, I'm out. I would suggest you try to be patient. Mercury goes into your 9th house, right? So we tie in the topics of the expansion of the mind, education, travel. Are you in the right place for your career? Do you need to move to reach the goals? Maybe it's the issue with the job, right? Like, you can get paid more, but that requires moving and you need to sort through that. Do you have the right education? Is there something you need to learn and something you need to explore in order to reach that height that you're trying to accomplish? 9th house deals with publishing. 9th house deals with faith. Quite simply put, do you believe in your own success? And if you don't, what can you change? How can you maybe start with affirmations every morning? Something that will help get you there. For Gemini risings, this retrograde starts in the 9th house and then Mercury moves into your 8th house. So the retrograde in the 9th house has a few possibilities, right? Like, it starts in the 9th. So it's connected to your faith, just as I was talking about for Taurus rising. So faith and beliefs and philosophies, anything like that, kind of could be useful to look back and ask yourself, what is your guiding force? What motivates you in life? And are you pursuing those things? If you are in school, there might be a sense of uncertainty about what you're studying, kind of a sense of misdirection a little bit, right? Like not knowing whether you are in the right place. Do you live in the right place? Are you studying the right thing? Miscommunications with teachers, maybe, maybe you're waiting for the paper to get graded and it's taking forever. Anything like that is possible, and it seems like the answer lies where Mercury stations direct, which is in Capricorn. And Capricorn is your 8th house, the same place Venus is retrograde at the moment. So 8th house deals with shared resources and shared energies. So whatever you're struggling with, sometimes the answer just lies in asking for help. It could be financial help, and maybe in order to go to school and start the program or move to a new place, you need to get a loan. So maybe the help comes from a financial institution. Maybe the help comes from your parents and you ask them for support. Regardless of what it is that's happening in the sector of learning, travel, and education, expansion, it seems like you need to sort through the money first. Like my Gemini rising friend has just returned to New York. She was in Germany for a while and she just came back, and it's likely that she's going to go back to Germany once again. But there's a lot of sorting through she needs to do. She needs to organize her apartment. She needs to figure out what's going to happen with her money, etc. Like, how to organize this. So basically, think about behind the scenes of the process, as well as your inner blockages. Like 8th house deals with fears, limitations, challenges, transformation. So perhaps some of your growth is tied to the things that are limiting you, and this could be a very cleansing transit for that. For Cancer risings, Aquarius is your 8th house, so Mercury begins its retrograde in the 8th house and it completes the retrograde in the 7th house. Mercury retrograde in the 8th can bring certain financial topics to light. Do you owe money to someone? Are you owed money? Is it time for you to pay the taxes? Is it time to renew your insurance? So there might be, with Mercury retrograde, there are like certain things that you forgot about. They might come back to light. Certain financial issues that appear. If you are in a relationship, there might be kind of challenges, or something is happening to your partner's resources. Maybe they get a promotion, maybe they lose a job. Hopefully it's the former, not the latter. And certain topics surrounding how much energy you put in, how much energy your partner puts in, may need to be revisited. And because Mercury goes retrograde in your 7th house, there might be a topic of conversing to your partner, right? Like maybe it's a need to rewrite your agreements with them. Maybe you need to express yourself more honestly. Venus being retrograde in your 7th house currently is all about rethinking what you want in relationships and rethinking what kind of partner you would like. So a lot of those financial challenges may be solved by your partner or having an honest conversation with them. Watch out for misunderstandings surrounding money, and try to bring as much clarity and honesty into your relationships as possible. For Leo rising, the retrograde begins in the 7th house and ends in the 6th house. And for Leos and for all of us, Mercury retrograde is activating that Saturn-Uranus square that we've all been dealing with in 2021. And there's still some of that this year. So Saturn is in your 7th, right? Like Saturn has been in your 7th for a while, and you've been needing to take responsibility for your relationships. There could have been challenges for Leo risings between your professional life and your relationship. For some of you, maybe, there's challenges in the relationship sector and it's blocking your professional growth. Whatever it is, there's a lot of relationship lessons for you. And this retrograde is not that different. You're continuing in that journey. Mercury retrograde in the 7th house may bring someone from the past, or it may bring up the topics you haven't discussed. If it is someone from the past coming into your life, be careful, because a lot of times it seems glittery and then it turns out not so great. But if it's the lesson you need to learn and, you know, something you need to revisit, by all means, go and do it. There is likely a need to rewrite certain conversations, to rewrite certain agreements rather in your relationship. And because Mercury retrogrades back into the 6th house, my feeling is that some of the relationship challenges you're dealing with can be solved by structuring your schedule differently. Let's say you have children and your partner is not taking responsibility, or they're working a lot and they're not a good source of support. So the answer with this retrograde might lay in you sitting down and talking to them about it, and maybe telling them like, hey, you have this item on your agenda. How about we try to repurpose it and then we try to work together? So clear some space, create a solid plan together with your partner, as well as I think Mercury going into your 6th house, dealing with your health, with your work, with your house of service. Perhaps the issue you're facing in a relationship is also connected to you not serving yourself. Maybe you need to take care of your health. Maybe you need to prioritize your well-being, and then your relationship will get on the right track as well. If you are a Virgo rising, this retrograde starts in your 6th house and it goes into your 5th house. And it's activating the Saturn-Uranus square between your 6th and your 9th. So having retrograde in the 6th house might imply needing to face certain health challenges, needing to reorganize your diet, reorganize your closet, solve some kind of work dilemma. Take your pet to the veterinarian, hard word. Basically, you know, like it's the time for you to reorganize your life and to clear out your schedule. And because Mercury is retrograding into your 5th house, there is also a topic. Venus is currently in your 5th house. Is there enough joy? Is there enough fun? Is there enough creativity and romance? And it seems like first, to get there, to feel like there is enough of it, you need to clear your schedule. You need to get more organized, right? Like you need to take better care of your body, take better care of your health, create a better schedule, and streamline things so there's more time for things you actually enjoy doing. And the same goes for creativity, right? Sometimes it's hard to feel inspired if your space is a mess. So organize your space and then the creativity may flow. Maybe you need to take care of your child. Maybe you need to take your child to a doctor, because 5th house deals with children as well. And the other thing I see here for Virgo risings is asking yourself how you can have more joy in the workplace and what you can do to make your work life more exciting, right? Like, and part of it is streamlining, but part of it is maybe going out with your colleagues and building more solid relationships versus just less kind of like more shallow level, going deeper. For Libra risings, yay, halfway there. This retrograde begins in your 5th house, then it goes into your 4th house. Venus is retrograding in the 4th. Uranus squares this retrograde from the 8th. So family dynamics, health of the family, your inner peace and safety and security. A lot of healing, I feel like, for my Libra risings. For, you know, like 5th house, Mercury retrograde in the 5th house, it could bring an ex back. It could make you think of an ex. It could bring up confusion when it comes to relationships. Maybe you're not quite sure what you want. Maybe you're not quite excited about the relationship you're in. So this issues when it comes to romance, creativity, and children are possible. Even, you know, I'm jumping around a little bit here, but like even if you are a parent, there might be certain things that are happening in the life of your child that need to be cleared away. So basically, yeah, like feeling uninspired, relationship challenges, fun, joy, romance, kind of like, is there enough fun in your life? Is your relationship flourishing? Are your children happy? And then Mercury goes into the 4th house where Venus is retrograding. So we're bringing it back to the topics of home and family, as well as early childhood and early conditioning. So with Venus being here, there may have been, especially in December and even early January, there may have been certain familial dynamics that have been brought up for your attention, and certain traumas as well, right? Like, are you allowing your family to take too much of your time? Are the dynamics unhealthy? Are you still repeating patterns and old ways of doing things that were taught to you by your parents, and maybe it's not working out for you? So I encourage you to do some therapy, to try and tap into what your inner child desires, and, you know, try to tap into your past and understand how your past still motivates you. And then another great way, I think, of processing it is taking the creative element and bringing it to the home and family. Maybe you look at your past and you write about it and you come up with a beautiful story, and that's the way of healing your inner child. For Scorpio risings, this retrograde begins in the 4th house, and then Mercury enters Capricorn, your 3rd house. Once again, we're dealing with the topics of 4th house and Uranus being in the 7th. So that square between Uranus and Saturn you've been dealing with in 2021 gets activated by this Mercury retrograde. Topics, challenges between your house of home, your family, and your relationship. Maybe there's certain misunderstandings about where you want to live, what do you want to do. This retrograde can bring attention to those and ask you to have a conversation, especially, you know, to have a conversation when it comes to your home and your apartment and your plans for the future, when it comes to building a family together. Mercury does retrograde in your 3rd house, so it's possible that you know, one example I'm thinking, like if you're moving, for example, like you're thinking of moving and then Mercury goes into the 3rd house and you need to look at the neighborhood that you're moving into. Are you happy with it? Maybe you're moving and your sibling decides to live with you and you need to have a conversation with them. It seems like whatever is happening, maybe there's like issues in the family dynamic, right? Like maybe your parents are not talking to one another and you're becoming the person, the middleman, trying to solve everything. If you're doing, with Mercury retrograde, if you're doing any renovation project, you can also, that is possibly going to get stalled. And then the answer lies in your 3rd house. So the answer is connected to clear communication and expressing yourself in an honest way. It also deals with scheduling. So if you are facing any issues when it comes to your move or your renovation, redecoration project, the answer might lie in better organization and kind of getting rid of certain things. And 3rd house, 4th house, 3rd house deals with technical things in the home. So maybe there's glitches with your pipes. Maybe make sure you have enough light bulbs, make sure you're organized. And I would say just focus on being honest in your communication with family members. For Sag risings, this retrograde starts in the 3rd house and then it moves into the 2nd house. So retrograde in the 3rd house deals with communication, transportation, technology, schedule, all of that kind of stuff. So it could be very literal, like you need to upgrade your technology, you need to upgrade your skills, because it goes back into the 2nd house. So the topics you are uplifting somehow deal with your finances. So someone I know, a friend, is a Sag rising, and she's unhappy with the work that she's doing and she's considering going back to school and learning something new. And so I think Venus is still retrograde in your second house, and you're asking about your values and your goals and your finances, kind of, as well as, like, you know, it's finances, but it's also what makes you feel worthy and valuable. And with retrograde starting in the third house, it could be buying yourself a latest Apple Watch, upgrading your technology, or it could be signing up for a course. It could be about perfecting your skills. Anything like that is a possibility. Whatever, ask yourself what makes you feel worthy and try to change your schedule, your environment, and your tools to match that. For Capricorn rising, this retrograde begins in your second house, and then Mercury retrogrades in the first house, with Uranus being in your fifth. So we start in the sector of finances and we end in the sector of identity, personality, appearance. Venus has been retrograde in your first house since December 19th until January 29th. So you're going through a sort of rebirth of your identity, rebirth of who you are. You may have been through a lot of challenges in the last year, and now you're focusing on building yourself back up. So with retrograde in the second house, focus on your resources and finances and values. And if it deals with finances, and with Venus retrograde in your first house, you're trying to start a new business, or you're trying to start a new career, do you have enough? Do you need to get your finances organized? Do you need to talk to an advisor or start a savings account? If it has to do with self-worth, what can you do to build up your confidence? Uranus is in the fifth, asking you to have children, to write, to become more creative, to have wonderful relationships. So how can you get there, right? Like, what is necessary? Do you need to eat better? Do you need to start the day with affirmations? Do you need to have a financial plan? What is missing in your life that you can tangibly change in order to get to where you're going? For Aqua risings, this retrograde starts in the first house and it moves into your 12th house, with Uranus being in the 4th house. So a lot of things to consider, right? Like, retrograde beginning in the first house can bring changes to your appearance, a sense of uncertainty about where you're going and where you live even, right? Like, Uranus is in the 4th house. There might be sudden surprises or things that call your attention when it comes to real estate or your family, and that creates a sense of confusion and uncertainty. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay, you are in that place of questioning things and figuring them out. Mercury retrogrades in your 12th house, so it seems like the answer to your problems lies in spiritual realm, in the realm of healing and releasing self-undoing tendencies and self-defeating beliefs. So in order to find kind of a new sense of self, a new confidence, you really need to first address your demons and allow trust, right? Like, Mercury retrograde in the 12th house may show you that there's a lot of things you cannot control, and all you can control is the way you respond to them. So if something is happening in your home, or if you're feeling uncertain about where you're going, confused, trust that you are on the right path, trust that things are happening for a reason, and try to focus on your healing and your spiritual well-being. Could be a great time for Aqua risings to introduce some kind of spiritual practice, to start meditating, to take up tarot, or start therapy at this time. Finally, if you are a Pisces rising, this retrograde starts in your 12th house, and then Mercury retrogrades in your 11th house. So retrograde beginning in the 12th house can feel very confusing. Mercury retrograde is confusing. 12th house is its own animal when it comes to confusion. So it's likely, you know, Mercury retrograde in the 12th house can definitely bring things that are out of your control. They can be connected to your neighborhood, to your siblings, to your speech, to your technology, even your skills, even things you're learning. There is a sense of confusion. See, even I'm struggling for words as I'm trying to describe it. There's a sense of fogginess when it comes to your future pursuits, maybe, or there might also be a sense that, like, you know, your old demons are holding you back. And I would encourage you to face all of these things that you're telling yourself. Are you blocking yourself? Are you not facing the darkness? Because Mercury in the 12th can be like literally, you know, like something's wrong, you don't know what's wrong, and you choose not to look at it. So I would suggest paying attention, revisiting things, focusing on your past traumas and giving them the light, even if it's just putting them on the piece of paper. Taking some time to nurture yourself, taking some time to retreat and step back. You may receive more intuitive messages at this time. They will not necessarily be very accurate, not always. Like I said, there's a sense of fogginess. But the more you lean into spirituality and talk to your therapist and connect on a deeper level, the more answers you'll find. And then, of course, Mercury retrogrades in your 11th house. So the answers may come from your friend groups, or like you can lean on your friend group for support. And quite the opposite sometimes. Maybe you need to clear your friend group, or you need to clarify what you want. And then when you do that, you can work on healing and you can finally release things that are holding you back, because 11th house deals with our larger hopes and dreams and aspirations. So this is all I have. I hope it was helpful. Happy New Year. Even though we are kind of deep into the new year. If you'd like a horoscope, if you'd like to know what 2022 has in store for you, DM me on Instagram, and I hope you have a lovely week ahead. Have a great Mercury retrograde as much as possible. Don't freak out. Bye.